Continuing with Greek myth today. Yesterday, I think we reached the Trojan War. In any case, that's right. The ship set sail from Aulis, and Clytemnestra returned to Argos, full of hatred for her husband, justified to some degree. I think, well, justified, no question. Anyway, the war begins, and the war goes on and on and on. Before leaving, in fact, before leaving Aulis, Calchas had predicted that Troy would fall in the 10th year. And everyone remembers this, and they remember it in that 10th year. It's cited in Book 2 of the Iliad. Anyway, the war goes on and on and on. I won't retell the war. The fall of Troy and the destruction of Troy is told in Virgil's Aeneid, Aeneid, which is the epic poem of the Roman Empire in Latin. Pretty great poem. I've never read it in the original, but it has problems certainly. But in Book 2, what happens is this. Aeneas was a hero in Troy. When Troy was taken that night, when the Trojan horse trick worked, and everything was burning and being consumed, Aeneas escaped with his family. His family almost had to force him because it was clear. If he stayed, yes, he would die, and they would die too or be enslaved. So he took to his ships with his family, his ancient father, his son, his wife was lost, and set sail. They landed in what would be Carthage in North Africa, where Queen Dido had established a Phoenician, Phoenician, colony and was doing fine. She was a widow herself. So, in Book 2, she asks him to tell what happened at Troy, and he tells about that destruction, and that's where one can learn about that. But it's nothing too surprising, and there's even the scene in Act 3 in the play within the play of Hamlet, which tells part of that episode. Okay, so Troy falls. Now, later we're going to do the Odyssey. The beginning of the Odyssey is in retrospect, is the fall of Troy. But maybe not. We're going to do other things, I think. I think I'll go ahead and tell the story of Agamemnon's homecoming. Now, people think that there were formerly a series of epic poems, not only the Iliad and the Odyssey, but a number of others, and that the Odyssey forms one of what are called the nostoi. Nostoi, hoi nostoi. Nostoi means homecomings. After all, Odysseus isn't the only one who went home. But that's a theoretical. The reason why it's possible, of course, is that originally these poems were told orally and passed down orally, and so the thought goes, why couldn't there be other poems too that were passed down orally? Very possible. At the end of the war, destruction, a lot of bad things happened. I mean, it was a slaughter, and it was messy, of course. Agamemnon, okay, everyone, all the Greeks got drunk, no doubt, and then the next morning they called an assembly. Some were in favor of leaving right away for home. Everyone knew that the gods were angry. After all, some bad things happened. Everyone knew the gods were angry. Some were in favor of leaving right away, hoping to avoid the wrath of the gods. Others hoped to stay and appease the gods somewhat. Not too surprisingly, Agamemnon was of the latter group. He was in no great hurry to go home. Others went, I'll tell that later in the Odyssey. But anyway, after a few days or a few weeks, I don't know, Agamemnon went home. Now, his prize at the end of the war was Cassandra. Other prizes too, no doubt, but Cassandra. Cassandra was the sister of Hector and Paris and the other sons of Priam. And she was a special case because she was really a prophetess. And the myth went that Apollo fell in love with her. Apollo's success rate is about 50-50 with the ladies, it seems. Remarkable how often he is rejected. Now, the fact that someone can be rejected, that a god can be rejected, it occurs to me, implies that he, more than Zeus, for example, gave the ladies a choice. Now, all this is myth, of course. But that's interesting. After all, if he was rejected, this means that the ladies had a choice. How much choice did Zeus give Leda when he raped her as a swan, for example, which I told about yesterday, I guess. Anyway, but that's just a side note. These things are things I look for, a kind of fresh insight or amusing aspect to the myths. Okay, so Cassandra has prophetic insight because Apollo wooed her, W-O-O-E-D, that is, tried to court her. At first, she seemed to say yes. She said yes if he granted her prophetic insight or second sight. He gave her the second sight, and then she changed her mind. He then, somewhat cunningly, said, okay. Interesting, you have the right to change your mind. This is interesting in itself. And just let me kiss you once and I'll say goodbye. He kisses her once, but by the contact of the lips, I guess, he takes away her credibility. And thus her gift becomes a curse. That is, yes, she has the second sight, but no one will believe her. This is a fairly profound myth, I think, because I think most prophets have this semi-curse. Many certainly do. That is, for whatever reason, they're not believed. Let's take a second look at the word prophet, by the way, even though this is not Old or New Testament, to think about it more seriously. Because I have noticed that your word in Korean, I guess yeun, is a troublesome word, because the word seems, from everything I have heard, to simply mean ability to predict the future. Even among the Greeks it meant more than that. It meant a prophet, a prophetess, is a messenger from the gods, or God. And the message is not always, I predict a huge disaster will happen or something like that. It's moral reproach or reprimand, it's guidance, all that kind of thing. So, and the Greeks, I think, had some of this too. Okay, so Agamemnon takes Cassandra home with him, probably dragging his heels, as we say, not in a hurry, because really this is a fascinating moment in myth and deserves a little more attention than I suspect it has received. Agamemnon has his glory. He has achieved his goal in his life. He conquered Troy. Military glory. He was the leader of the expedition, commander-in-chief. But he must be his conscience must be bothering him, of course. The story of the sacrifice of Iphigenia is a little bit difficult to believe, but in some cultures, Lord knows, this has happened. Anyway, so he goes home. Now, the play by Aeschylus begins, it's called the Agamemenon. It's the first of the three, the only trilogy that has survived in Greek drama is the Oresteia. Oresteia, named after Orestes, Agamemnon's son, who turns out to dominate the second and third plays of the trilogy. The first play is called the Agamemenon, and it involves the homecoming of Agamemnon. Now, what we see at the opening of the play, it's very interesting. It's really great. The watchman is standing on the roof of some house, or the palace, I guess, or the roof of the palace, and his job for years has been to keep watch, to watch those mountains over there, because he knows that Clytemnestra has set up a very interesting relay system whereby, when Troy falls, a series of mountain fires, a string of these, has been set up so that she can discover quite quickly that Troy has fallen, and she can make her preparations for the homecoming of her husband. The watchman speaks and has very mixed feelings about this. He has been promised a great reward, but he has a feeling, he doesn't know, but he has a feeling, and the play is full of things like this, half knowledge, half intuition. He can't be sure what Clytemnestra has planned, but he certainly has a foreboding that it's bad. So he has mixed feelings about these things. And, there's the fire. He must do his duty. If he doesn't, it could mean his death. If he does, it will mean a reward, but he certainly doesn't feel very good about it. Excuse me. Okay, so then we get the appearance of Clytemnestra. Clytemnestra is a giant. She dominates the play. She dominates Agamemnon. She dominates the males in that male world of those males who surround her. And there are several such figures in Greek literature. Medea is another. Antigone is not. She is at first, but then that changes quickly. There are others in Greek literature. There were some in Greek history. This creates a problem for the student of Greek culture, because the picture certainly that we get is the position of women is like their position in Saudi. The veil, never seen, take the veil off and they're put to death, kind of like the Taliban fundamentalist Muslim approach to keeping their women. Pretty brutal and certainly repressive. But then these Clytemnestras and these Medeas and some others seem to belie, seem to contradict this vision, this version. That Saudi version is an exaggeration. It always was. Aristocratic women, probably the key to the conundrum, the riddle, is in class. That is, aristocratic women certainly had rights and authority, of course. And even the very poor had to work in the markets and so forth. So, no, that version is false. But Clytemnestra is a great, great character. She speaks, she appears publicly before the men. The old men form the chorus. Every Greek drama has a chorus, must. And the earlier the drama, the more important the chorus. The Agamemnon is an early drama. I think 476. I'm not sure of that, but possible. Anyway, that makes it the earliest play that we have. The chorus is important, and the lyricism of the chorus I tried once in Greek. My Greek's on a level of Homer, my Greek is good, but outside of Homer, I have problems. And in those tragedies, and especially the Agamemnon, my God, it's very difficult. Anyway, so the chorus, Clytemnestra speaks to the chorus and speaks with such authority and such defiance. And the chorus doesn't like it, but doesn't quite know what to do. The chorus says, now, let's not have any trouble. The choruses are never brave. I think sometimes you can say the chorus is the mass of us, especially our timidity. Timid, prudent, play it safe, I don't want any trouble, I don't like to get upset. Like most of us, most of the time perhaps. Not a glorious specimen of humanity. Anyway, so that's how the chorus is. So, skipping along, remember I told you the myth yesterday, I think, of Aegisthus. That is, he was the incestuous son of Thyestes, born of the union between Thyestes and his daughter, whose name I don't remember. He grows up, and as I told you, he grows up hating the house of Atreus, which did such terrible things to his family. Well, Atreus has been dead for a long time, and that leaves him with his hatred. The hatred, let's say, descends upon Menelaus and, most important, Agamemnon. So, 10 years have passed. The war lasted 10 years. After 3 years of the war, Aegisthus appeared in Argos and wooed, to use that word again, courted, sought the love of Clytemnestra. Now, Homer, in Book 1 of the Odyssey, says that Clytemnestra resisted for a year or two even. This is not the version in other tellings of the myth. And it's always interesting to see the changes that are made and to remember that myth in the end is a malleable in the hands of, it depends on who's telling the story, what one wants to emphasize, what one wants to neglect or ignore, of course. Anyway, my own version would be that she yielded much faster than that. Because the way Aeschylus tells the story, what unites these two people, Clytemnestra and Aegisthus, is hatred. They are united by their hatred, the dominant passion in their lives, but in Clytemnestra more than Aegisthus, of Agamemnon. And that hatred is so powerful, it's even mentioned as a kind of it incites the passion, whatever passion might be between these two lovers, comes not from passion that they feel for each other, but passion that they feel against Agamemnon and that they share. Very interesting, somewhat bizarre, psychologically bizarre. Okay, in any case, they have been lovers, let's say, for 7 years, and they have more or less planned this murder when Agamemnon returns. Now, for Aeschylus, Aegisthus is not important. He's a secondary figure, because he is fascinated by Clytemnestra. That this murder is going to be her show, her feat, F-E-A-T. And so, in other stories, the lovers combine to kill Agamemnon. Okay, so Agamemnon returns finally. He returns on his chariot. He's the commander-in-chief. He's an emperor, after all. He's the Mycenaean emperor. And Clytemnestra has prepared something kind of odd. She knows right where his chariot will stop, and she has made or had made a long cloth, apparently very long, extending from the chariot to the palace, so that he, the returning emperor, will step only on this purple, royal purple cloth. Well, it is kind of foreboding too. Now, he's an emperor, he deserves it, and purple was as valuable as gold. The purple dye was almost as valuable as gold. Okay, he arrives, and they have this fascinating conversation. She from the palace, so they must almost be yelling. I don't think she is out there. No. Depends on how long the cloth is. But I like to picture it as pretty long. 15 meters at least, let's say. So their voices must be raised. But he's there, and he's kind of his pompous self. Pompous with, and let's add a dimension of fear, foreboding, a sense of impending disaster. But he can't quite put his finger on it. Now, who's riding on the chariot with him but Cassandra? Beautiful. Now this, how shall we say this? I think we can say that by putting her on that chariot with him, by even taking her back to Argos with him, he is courting his own death, or assuring, if there were any doubts that he was going to die, those doubts are removed by the presence of Cassandra. Again, not out of some sexual jealousy, I think, but, I mean, that's an affront, A-F-F-R-O-N-T, a slap in the face to Clytemnestra. Anyway, so there she is riding along and on the chariot, and Clytemnestra persuades Agamemnon to walk on that cloth into the palace. And it's almost as if the force of her will gains control of him. It's eerie. That's what it is. E-E-R-I-E. And at first he doesn't want to, and he says, I'm not a god. This is for a god. But when he walks on it, he is guilty of hubris, wanton arrogance. He's defying the gods. He has already announced that cloth is to be walked on only by a god, and then he walks on it. It's that family complacency of which Menelaus is guilty too, but in a much more boyish and sheepish way. But Agamemnon is guilty when he steps on that cloth, and he walks into the palace. Now, that leaves us looking, because we never change locations in Greek drama. Our location is right there, outside. That's where the whole play takes place. So we never see what happens inside. We're going to have to learn from messengers or somehow, as in all the plays. Change of scene, impossible. Okay, but that leaves Clytemnestra for one of the great scenes. Clytemnestra has basically a prophetic moment. She falls into a prophetic trance, and she speaks in this highly poetic, highly elusive, A-L-L, referring to other things, highly obscure and intense style. But what she's saying is clear to us readers. She sees blood. She sees blood on the walls of that palace from before, and she describes the feast of Atreus, which I told you about yesterday, when Atreus feeds the flesh of of Thyestes' little boys to Thyestes, and then of course Thyestes curses the house of Atreus. She sees it, and of course the chorus who are listening can't follow her. What is she saying? What does she mean? I don't know. And gradually her speech becomes more and more unequivocal. less and less obscure, more and more clear. And then there is this remarkable scene, this moment when suddenly she speaks almost directly, he's going to be murdered. She is murdering him right now. And immediately the leader of the chorus, the choragos, the main speaker of the chorus, says, I don't believe it. The curse of Apollo kicks in, as we might say, becomes active. Wow. He doesn't believe it. But then we hear shouts from inside, and Agamemnon is shouting, screaming, she's killing me, she's killing me. Don't do it, she's killing me. And the chorus, as always, hesitates. The chorus, should we get involved? What should we do? What's our role in this? This is royalty. Do we oppose the queen? And of course it's too late. Suddenly the doors open, as they always do, or often do in these tragedies, and there stands Clytemnestra. Blood on her dress, triumph in her eye. She has done it. She has done it. What she did, she describes, is she persuades her husband, a Greek common tradition, she will bathe him. Well, heroes and travelers even were bathed routinely by women, especially their wives. So he couldn't very well object. How could he? On what grounds could he object? So he let himself be bathed, and she bathed him and talked, and then she offers him a robe. But this robe is kind of like a straitjacket, what is called. That is, fits entering it frontally. She then goes behind, attaches some strings. He can't move. He cannot move. And that's what he was saying, but we didn't understand. And then she explains, it's a remarkable thing that she has done here. He's a powerful man, of course. He cannot move out of that robe. And then she stabs him, and stabs him to his death. Wow. What a woman. What rage, what resolution, what willpower, what a dominant force. What an amazing woman and character, and what a great drama. Already, though, she's exhausted, because after all she has achieved what gave her life meaning. But what happens after that? In this situation, or in any person's life, maybe. But so dramatic as this is, and so intense. Already she is weary. The chorus become aggressive, of course express their disapproval and so forth. Enter Aegisthus, who is a male, and he barks at the chorus, and he's going to take charge now. What this shows psychologically is that his passion for the deed was much less than hers. Lord, if he had been there, he might have gotten in the way. He would have been an impediment, an obstacle. And now, kind of cowardly man that he is, he shows up afterwards, and he's going to be the man. He's the power. So the play ends with a squabbling like this. I guess I'll tell briefly the other two plays. And really, this reminds me that there are a lot of plays to tell. But I think I'll be able to fit all or most of them in. Okay. The second play is called Choreophori. Choephori, the libation bearers. I won't tell this in detail. It's a much lesser play, I think, and the third one too. The three form a trilogy, but nothing of the greatness of the Agamemnon appears in the final two plays. 7 years have passed since the murder of Agamemnon. During that time, the son of Agamemnon, Orestes, who was 10 or 11 years old at least when Dad arrived home, during the events was taken away to Delphi, basically, Delphi, for safety. This was not Mom's idea, I think. I'm not sure about this. The idea was that his life was in danger, and he was the prince. So whether Mom liked it or not, that's what happened. And there wasn't much she could do, but maybe not much she wanted to do either. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, 7 years have passed. Orestes is now 18, let's say, and he appears secretly on the outskirts of Argos. Actually, we do get changes of scene here. In some of the plays, changes of scenes. Secretly with his friend Pylades, who is a classic close friend companion in classical literature, which is full of such people, kind of like Horatio becomes to Hamlet. Anyway, Electra, his older sister, lives to kill Mom. Her life is kind of hell. She hates Aegisthus. She hates Mom for the murder of Dad. One of these. She's a complex character, and she appears in her own play by Euripides. Euripides, a master of bizarre psychological states. He really makes her into a bizarre, disturbed character, unbalanced. Okay. Orestes and Pylades hide outside the tomb area. Electra arrives to perform the rites, R-I-T-E-S, for Dad. And she speaks aloud, and she expresses her hatred of her mother and her stepfather, shall we say. Orestes realizes that this is his sister, realizes that he can count on her as an ally, as an aid in this, presents himself, and we get the reunion of brother and sister. Aegisthus is a little more important in this play. Orestes and Pylades appear at the palace under false names, talk with Clytemnestra, I guess, in any case, are welcomed as guests. No one recognizes them. In short, Orestes is able to kill not only Clytemnestra, but Aegisthus too, with the help of Pylades. I don't quite remember what Pylades did, but maybe he killed Aegisthus. Anyway, they are able to, they're successful. But suddenly at the end of the second play, the Furies appear, the Furies attack Orestes. This means his guilt, his terrible guilt feelings at having killed his mother. He just killed his mother. That's not easy. It's not easy to live with, no matter what circumstances. Nero did this. Apparently the Emperor Nero was able to do this successfully. What a mom. Much worse than Clytemnestra. But anyway, the Furies attack him. The third play is called the Eumenides, the kindly ones. What happens basically is Orestes is driven from place to place. He seeks Apollo's aid because, by the way, Apollo at Delphi had told him to go kill Clytemnestra. But what's happening here for Aeschylus is that he wants to juxtapose, set side by side, patrilinear and matrilinear rights, or if you like, patriarchal, the rights of a father and the rights of a mother. Because from the beginning of the play, from the beginning of the trilogy, we have this confrontation between male and female, the war of the sexes, and a woman should be submissive and all that. Aeschylus clearly does not believe that. A woman should have rights equal to a man. And so these things are tested, and many things are being tested in this amazing trilogy, to which I cannot really give justice. I haven't done it for a long time. But here we have it. Apollo had said to Orestes, go kill her. She killed your father. The closest bond in nature is the bond between a father and a son. But But the Furies will argue that the closest bond is that between a mother and a son. The mother gives birth. The blood is direct. And so the Furies are going to confront Apollo in this. But this is like the confrontation between head and heart, mind, intellect, and emotion. And this gets extended even to the rights to governmental and religion. It becomes even a matter of polytheism versus monotheism. And Aeschylus turns out to be a champion, implicitly implied, of monotheism. That is, he is a religious thinker. He is a thinker on every level. And what happens in the play is Athena intervenes, and Athena decides that there will be a trial of Orestes, and it will take place at Athens, her city. And this is Apollo versus the Furies. And Athena institutes a jury. And this is a great moment, an amazing moment. 12 jurors will, normal citizens of Athens, will try the case. And in the event of a tie, Athena will have the authority to break the tie. So this is what happens. Apollo presents his arguments, which are kind of silly. The Furies present their arguments, which are less silly. The vote, 6-6, Athena votes for acquittal. That is, Orestes is innocent. Because really, most of the evidence shows that he did what he did under the pressure of Apollo, really. In any case. Now, the Furies are furious, and they say they will flood Attica. They will drown Athens. They will destroy everything. But Athena speaks to them and says, you can do this. You have the power to do this. But wouldn't it be better for you to assume an honored place in Athens as the protectors of justice, protectors of the forces that you protect always, and assume a change from being the Furies, ferocious, fearsome creatures, to kindly ones, the Eumenides, and they accept. So this becomes a great appeal, though not, I think, great drama, for justice, for peaceable solutions to conflict, reason and heart reconciled, men and women reconciled, an amazing thing, this Orestea. Okay, now, have to think of other myths. Homecomings, Menelaus, I'll get that in the Odyssey. Other myths. Ah! I think I'll go ahead and tell Medea, because she doesn't fit into Thebes. Am I supposed to be doing Thebes today? No, that's okay. Medea. I'm going to tell the story of Medea, which is important. Oh, and I could tell the story of Jason and the Argonauts, too. I can do Jason pretty quickly. Okay, Jason was a hero, and I should have to do Heracles, too. But he can be done pretty quickly, too. Jason and the Argonauts, leading to Jason and Medea. Okay, Jason and the Argonauts, leading to Medea. Jason is a prince. His father, the king, is deposed, put out of power, put in prison, in fact, by Jason's uncle, Pelias. And Jason, as a baby, is swept away, taken away to the wilderness for safety, really, just like young Orestes a minute ago. And he's raised in the wilderness by the most famous of all centaurs, Centaurs, Chiron. Chiron, half horse, half man, is the wisest of mortals. As such, he's an anomaly. Wisdom in a centaur? because the centaurs are bestial. There are anomalies like this, and we will see them in Book 9 of the Odyssey when we meet the Cyclops. And these interest G.S. Kirk a lot and are interesting. Anyway, Jason grows up with the best of instruction on not only intellectual instruction, but martial arts too. He will be a hero. Anyway, when he's around 18 years old, one supposes, he reappears to claim his throne, which is rightly his. His uncle puts him off, though, and says, well, you can't have the throne, somebody says, until you produce the golden fleece. Jason really doesn't want to sit on the throne anyway. He wants to be a hero, and he wants adventure. So he is not unhappy about this development. And by tradition, he builds the first ship, the Argo, and he must gather sailors for this ship, the Argonauts, sailors of the Argo. And he gets heroes. Heracles is among them, Hercules. I'm going to call him Heracles. And even Peleus, the future father of Achilles, is there, and other heroes too. They set sail. They have various adventures, which if I had more time I would tell, but I think I must make progress. Anyway, adventure upon adventure, and then he arrives at Colchis. Now, Colchis is an area in the Black Sea, the northern coast of Turkey, Asia Minor. That is, it's on the very edge of the Greek world and in the barbarous world, the barbarian. And this is a little bit important. Now, Jason, all this we learn in Medea, but that's okay. Jason arrives there. Jason is under the protection of Aphrodite. Aphrodite is very fond of him. Hera too, actually. So for once they are allies. Jason arrives at Colchis. Now the king of Colchis, oh God, doesn't matter. The king of Colchis has a daughter and a son. The daughter is Medea, so she's a princess. The son is Absyrtus, which is the least important name, and I remember that. But the names of these people don't matter much. Right away, Aphrodite makes sure that Medea falls in love, passionately, intensely in love with Jason. That's how this is going to work. Because Medea has magical powers. Medea is a sorceress, S-O-R-C-E-R-E-S-S. A word familiar to Harry Potter readers, I think. And so that's how it's going to work. Medea, who is a passionate human being anyway, and one of the most remarkable characters in Greek drama, the equal to Clytemnestra, takes charge and basically helps Jason. I'm not going to tell those stories because the play is much more important. Helps Jason to get that golden fleece. So Jason gets the golden fleece and now is about to leave, running, to escape. Because he has that golden fleece which has been under the protection of the king there of Colchis, Medea's father. So as they're leaving, Medea wants to go with him too. She can't stay. She has betrayed her father and her country. Her little brother comes running up for whatever reason, and Medea says to Jason, seize him, take him on board the ship, the Argo, because he will be helpful. Jason does this, and they get on board the ship, and they set sail. Well, the king orders his boats. What happened to Argo was the first boat. Orders his boats to pursue. And when the pursuit is getting kind of close, they're catching up to the Argo? Strange. Medea orders the men to kill her little brother, slice him up into little pieces, and throw him into the sea. so that the ships that pursue will have to stop and pick up the pieces of the body, and the delay will allow the Argo to escape. Brutal. Well, friends, at least no one ate the body this time, as in the other myths that I've told you. And I've got to tell you that other Athenian myth, too. Okay, so the Argo escapes. They go back to Iolcus, where where Jason wants to be king. But Peleus, of course, the uncle, still does not want to relinquish the throne. And so he puts them off and puts them off. Finally, it's pretty clear they're not going to get that throne. So Medea goes to work once again. She, magician, sorceress that she is, has this large cauldron, a big container. And she's got water in there and magic potions and all that. And she boils it. It's warm. And she takes an old ram, a ram that's really old and ready to die. She invites the daughters of Peleus to watch this show. Probably others watched it too. She takes the ram, cuts the ram up, puts the ram into the magic potion, and pulls out a youthful ram. Wow, good trick. So the daughters of Peleus seem to be very fond of their father. One of these bonds that almost disturbing in Greek myth. And the Greeks knew it was disturbing too. So they think, what if we do this to Dad? Because Dad is very old now, and he can be rejuvenated. So they cut Dad up, put him into the cauldron, and say, well, Medea, put those magic elements, ingredients in. And Medea says, I'm sorry, I've forgotten those ingredients. Peleus is dead, killed by his own daughters, and by the trickery of Medea. Well, now things are just too hot around Iolcus for them. They must flee. They must escape. Now, let's notice, and they go to Corinth, and that's where our play takes place. The play is a great one. I hope I'm going to try to speed it up. At the opening of the play, this play by Euripides, one of his best, and Euripides at his best is the equal to Sophocles or Aeschylus. Often he falls below, but the other two fell too. 19 plays survive from Euripides, 7 only from Sophocles, 7 from Aeschylus. And we know that Sophocles has his lower moments. Sophocles, who wrote at least 124 plays, at least 124. But the man lived to be 96 years old. Okay, Medea. The action takes place in Corinth. Not many plays take place there. They have arrived there and have lived there for a while, but now Jason has formed an alliance with the king there, and Jason wants to marry the princess. She has a couple of different names, so I'm just going to call her the princess. Jason is now around 40 years old, and on the stage he should be somewhat paunchy. That is, and balding maybe. That would be a good touch, because his aging is an interesting aspect of this play, especially for modern audiences. Medea feels hurt, betrayed, enraged. After all, she has given up everything for him, for Jason. They have, by the way, 2 sons, and the sons are now maybe 6, 7, 6, 8 years old. And Jason is going to leave them. Of course, if they stayed, maybe they'd be protected, maybe. And Jason is going to move into the palace and sleep with sweet little princess. Well, this is a terrible situation. The king there is totally wrong to allow this. That he allowed this to happen to his daughter is the problem, and he's at fault. That the daughter allowed this to happen is that she's at fault too. But Medea, in her reaction, is excessively, she's furious. She's furious. She is wounded womanhood, like Clytemnestra. Okay, so at the beginning of the play, she is just shouting and screaming and cursing, angry all the time and hurt. The nurse, a main character, has the opening. First we get the prologue. Euripides is clumsy with his prologues. A prologue is a very mechanical device by means of which the playwright can inform the audience of information. But if the prologue is simply prologue and not some character, this is crude. And Euripides does this sometimes. It's almost as if Euripides were to say, I don't want to win your first prize. You can take your first prize, Athenians, and do something with it. I don't care about it. And in fact, he only won first prize twice in many years. He didn't care about first prize. But he was a great dramatist anyway, and a great thinker too. So the nurse, we get the nurse who tells us, oh my God, I think something terrible is going to happen. I'm afraid because that woman's rage is so great. And she's a princess. And princesses, royalty, likes to have their own way. And when they don't have their own way, they are dangerous. And a person like Medea is especially dangerous. And I'm worried about the children's well-being. Okay. Then Medea... then news arrives. The news is that the king is going to banish Medea. The king is afraid of Medea and is going to banish her. This is a disaster. Enter Medea. She talks with the chorus. Of course, the chorus are Corinthian women. And as such, they have a little sympathy with Medea. But they're always timid, prudent, cautious, especially around royalty. So Medea talks to them and tells them everything, and that's how we find out what she's thinking. Enter the king. And the king says, Medea, he's very abrupt and imperious. Medea, you leave here now. I will not discuss it, no discussion, leave now. Now, if we're judges of character, we know already that from his manner, that he's putting on a mask, that in fact he's afraid, and that basically he is a warm-hearted, sentimental man, and his own sentimentality will be his undoing. His own sentimentality has already induced him to let this situation take place, because no doubt the princess said, Daddy, 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 I love him, and he, the king, yielded to her coaxing, and this has produced the critical situation. So when he arrives stern and commanding, we know, no. So Medea goes to work on him, and she persuades him, in brief, to allow her 24 hours. She's got to make arrangements for her sons, and so forth. He, although he knows better, yields. Okay, but only 24. And I'm afraid of you, I tell you, I fear you, and you be gone or you are dead. He leaves and he speaks to the chorus. Yes, yes, I have all the time I need to work my vengeance, my revenge. And she tells the chorus what she's going to do, briefly. Enter, oh boy, no, first Jason came before the king, I guess. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter much. The first interview, the second, there are three. The three interviews, as they're called, between these two, fascinating. In the first, Jason says to her, treats her with contempt, really, or with this kind of complacent, yes, yes, you women. His manner is, you women are so hysterical. You get so worked up about sexual jealousy. All I wanted to do was to assure the future of our family, the well-being of our family here. That's why I did this. But you women are so consumed by sexual jealousy, and you're so emotional anyway. And here's what Euripides is doing. He's interested in men versus women, reason versus passion. He too. But he's interested in a much more intimate way than Aeschylus was, because what he will do is balance the claims in life of reason and passion. By the way, Greek and barbarian, reason, passion, men, women. Wow, this is powerful stuff. In the first interview, there's no question, we prefer Medea. Jason is so obnoxious. He is so complacent. And it's obvious that he, and is it obvious that we men, use reason. He uses reason simply to support his own point of view, his own preferences, his own way, to get his own way. And we prefer Medea. He's wrong. He leaves. Then comes the banishment scene. Then comes a visitor from Athens, Aegeus. Aegeus knows Medea. Aegeus is the king of Athens, and so Medea persuades him to let her come to Athens and be protected by Athens. Aegeus grants this request. Athens, open door. Protect the fugitives. Aegeus leaves. Yes, now I have it. Now I know what I'm going to do, and I have a safe place to go. Athens, and protection. Aegeus promised to protect her too. So, then we get the second interview, yes, with Jason, where she apologizes for her inordinate rage and emotion. She says, yes, you were right, dear, I'm wrong. You were right. I'm going to send my boys with a gift for the princess. You don't have to send a gift. She has everything. No, I want to. Please allow this, and I will leave, and I will not bother anyone. Okay, he says, stupidly. He leaves. Yes. She sends the gift. The gift is a robe and a diadem, a little coronet. But she puts basically an acid on these things. Anyone who puts these on is dead. She puts these in a box, and she sends the cute little boys bearing the gift to the princess. A messenger tells us the whole story, describes everything that happens. The messenger who returns to Medea. And what happens is, the cute little boys, everyone is happy about this. This seems like a peaceful solution to this terrible problem. Jason says, yes, it's okay, to the princess. The princess tries the robe on, walks around, checks out the length and all that, puts the crown on, and then suddenly she turns white. It's a remarkable moment, and she falls over into a chair. An old woman is there who screams the scream of the presence of supernatural. It's an amazing moment. And she's being consumed by this thing. She tries to tear it off, but she tears her own skin off. Enter the king, loving, doting father, who is consumed by pain at the sight of this. He embraces his daughter, tries to comfort her. He can't pull away from this stuff. It consumes him. There they both lie, dying, dead, and people standing around watching this, powerless to do anything. Jason stands there just amazed, all of his plans consumed. Meanwhile, the messenger finishes the message. Medea then painfully, kills her own sons. Why? To punish him. But this happens in life. This happens, read the paper any day. People can kill the children to punish the spouse. Happens all the time. The third interview at the end of the play, Jason arrives. Medea is up on the roof, a coup de théâtre, an amazing moment in theater. She's in her chariot. Her grandfather was Helios, the sun god. She has a chariot, a magical flying chariot. She has the dead bodies of her sons. Jason says, "Come down here, you witch, you terrible person. How could you do this? How could you do what you did?" By the end, we feel that neither one of these, not the male, not the female, deserves our respect at all. The female is wrong for the excesses of her passion. The male is wrong for the excesses of his reason. The Greek is wrong, the barbarian is wrong. The man is wrong, the woman is wrong. To take our choice between these two is hopeless. Neither one is worth much. Euripides, sharp man. Okay.